Hozier is one of those artists that we're gonna look back on in like 20 years as a living legend. But there's one problem. There is virtually nothing out there about how Hozier records his own music. As open as he is about his songwriting and his lyrics, his recording process is not public knowledge. Let's change that. Today we're going over what gear he uses, what mixing techniques he uses, his recording and production process. All of that so we can recreate a Hozier track as accurately as possible in a bedroom. Specifically the track Movement. We got really lucky because I'm going to show you something that's going to reveal way more info than I ever thought we would get. As it turns out, Pure Mix with Andrew Sheps, who is the mixer on Movement, has one tutorial about Hozier. And that breakdown happens to be Movement. I did not know this going into the project before I started researching this. With that said, I really highly recommend that you check out Pure Mix and you check out that video. I'm not going to break down all of the mixing techniques, that wouldn't be fair to them. I'm just going to show you guys the gear that they used and some of the production techniques and apply it to our own video. Drums can really be divided into two different sections, the main body of the song and the outro. While the outro features an entire full drum kit, the rest of the song only features a bass drum, a floor tom, claps, a shaker, and then some chains to add as additional percussion. The kick was mic'd with one main microphone of an unknown model and a sub-kick microphone for added low end. Then the floor tom was added as an overdub playing the same rhythm as the kick. That floor tom was mic'd with a Royer 121, two Neumann M50s, and one unknown mic model as the top of the floor tom. We will definitely not be using this expensive of a rig, but I will try and emulate the fashion that they've recorded this microphone as accurately as possible using cheaper hardware. The main kick, however, would eventually be replaced by a sample that is being triggered rather than the original recording. Now the kit on the outro consists of the same microphone setup for the kick, then two stereo overheads of an unknown model, a single mono overhead, which is likely a ribbon microphone, and then a mono room mic. Now, although we're not getting too deep into the mixing here, the drum sound is actually being sent to 3 parallel processing tracks that make the sound much fatter and bigger for the outro. That's really super necessary because the rest of the track is pretty chill and we need to have a ton of energy in this outro. So in the description, you're going to see 2 different links. One of those links is a whole list of different iterations of this mix. Personally, I wanted to provide you guys with a bunch of different versions so you could see kind of how the track is built, what it sounds like unmixed, what it sounds like mixed, what it sounds like with the mastering chain on it. So that's all available to you. And the other one is the stem. So if you wanted to try and mix this track yourself, you can actually just download all of the stems, there's a lot, and then give it a shot. And the way we're able to do this is with our sponsor Samply. Samply is basically Dropbox and Google Drive smashed into a format that is perfect for musicians and audio producers. What that means, first and foremost, lossless audio. It has tools built in for like loudness penalties for different streaming platforms, integrated payment and invoicing tools, and even simple stuff that's just super intuitive. Like for example, automatically chronologically ordering the different drafts of your mix whenever you upload it. You can comment on the timeline like it's SoundCloud, stuff like that. And not only that, really accomplished producers for like Mac DeMarco, Taylor Swift, Doja Cat, they all use Samply too. All of that is available in the free version. The free version of Samply is just wildly generous. 25 gigabytes of storage for a free version of this app is absolutely insane. So if you'd like to use a tool that I use every day and that a bunch of other way more accomplished people use as well, check out Samply down below. Bass is fairly simple. There was one DI signal and then there was one Shure SM7 miking the bass amp. Now, many parts of the song, by the way, are played by the bass player, not just the bass. His name is Alex Ryan. He's an incredible musician, and I believe, if I understand right, he has been working with Hozier since before Hozier even took off. I feel like he doesn't get enough credit. He also, I think, plays the keys on this track too. We're also going to be going fully DI rather than miking a bass amp because I don't have a bass amp. There are guitars on this track, even though he doesn't play a guitar live. They're actually buried under the chorus and the outro. We have 2 guitar lines, both of them accenting the main chorus and the outro, as I already mentioned. Both of these guitar lines are composed of 3 different guitar takes. 2 Fender Champ amplifiers split between the left and right side of stereo. Then an old Vox amp, that's all we know, that's playing down the center of the stereo image. The amps are mic'd with a combination of a Shure SM7 and a Bayer Dynamic M160, kind of depends on the take. Hozier likes to use a lot of hollow bodies, although he's currently also using a Strat on tour. So I'm going to use a combination of my hollow bodies and my Strats. The keys are the main harmonic instrument of the song. The vocal and the keys are the key to movement. So it's really important that we nail this part. And that's going to be hard because he has a ton of studio power on his side. The main recorded keys is a Fender Rhodes amplifier. The main take is mic'd with a DI signal and a Shure SM7, both running center and stereo. Then they emphasize the bass notes by playing another take, only the bass notes, and they put that on the left side of stereo. A grand piano comes in during the chorus in order to emphasize the same main chorus line that the guitars are emphasizing. I keep pointing with a pen. Do I look like an angry teacher? It's fun, I like it. Now this grand piano is recorded with a number of different microphones. A stereo pair of KM184s, stereo C414 room mics, and a single unknown microphone for the bass strings. This is where things start to get really tricky. There's also an organ on this track. The organ comes in to accent the pre-chorus, the chorus, and the outro. And actually further, we're gonna have to rely a lot on convincing MIDI emulations and convincing hardware emulations, because obviously we can't mic a grand piano in this room. Since Hozier himself uses a Nord keyboard live, I think it's a safe bet that we also employ a Nord. So we're going to be doing our best with that, but we're also going to be recording keys using MIDI. That way we can try out a bunch of different emulations if the Nord isn't as accurate as we want. Vocals are a wild one. I'll cover the basics here, but again, if you'd like to see a more in-depth look on the whole production process, A, you should watch Andrew Shep's breakdown, and B, during our part 2, we'll kind of cover the overarching themes. Although the lead vocals were recorded with an unknown microphone, we do know that the choir section in the outro was recorded on a Neumann U87. Given that he mentions that he uses U87s a lot when he's recording his demos, and we know that the choir is all U87, I think it's safe to assume that he probably used a U87 as the main vocal, but that does not mean that we're going to use it. I don't have a beautifully treated room that sounds amazing whenever somebody is belting into a condenser microphone, and you probably don't either. Although the Clarion will work for a song that's recorded fairly quietly, we have a lot of belty loud vocal sections here. And on top of that, we're stacking a ton of choir vocals. I don't want that room noise, so we'll be using a dynamic. The background vocals have pretty much the same process. They're all grouped together into several different harmonies, some of which are artificially pitched, some of which are doubles. There's also Leslie emulations on these. And that is finally more than enough to get started. So I will see you back here in like probably a month. Making these usually takes like a month or more. Wish me luck.
All right, welcome back to the hardest series on the internet to make. These videos take so long.
So please subscribe.
If you check it out, this channel is actually really small. We're growing, but we're small. So anything you can do to help, that's how these videos like survive in the algorithm. So thank you so much. All right, so after hours and hours and hours of work, let's go over what I actually did in a home studio to remake what they did in a millions and millions of dollar studio. So we mimicked the exact same miking layout that they had on Movement, the actual recording. But for microphone models that we didn't know, we just used microphones that typically suit that occasion pretty well. And for microphones that we did know, we replaced them with microphones that have similar voicings that are also more affordable. And on that note, these mics are still kind of pricey. So I will add in alternative microphones that are cheaper that have similar voicings as well on the video. For the kick, we used a combination of a Sennheiser E902 and a Soyuz 1970
E73.
Both of these were placed on the outside of the kick because there is no porthole on this kick drum. The E609 was intended to be the main kick mic, and the Soyuz was to replace their sub-kick tone. But I ended up scrapping the 609. It had too much punch and too much power. We needed a more round tone. So I actually ended up using the Soyuz Bomblet as the standalone recorded drum microphone. And then there was the question of what are we going to do about this kick sample that was used to replace a lot of the kick sounds in the recording. Andrew Scheps used a really big fat 80s disco drum sound that he actually got from Drumagog. But I had an idea. I'll show you that idea now. This is an old 80s drum machine that has a pretty fat, punchy, heavily compressed kick sound too. It's called the TR-626. So I ended up just printing the sounds from this drum machine and then aligning those to the recorded kick. And it worked like a charm. You can check out the kick with and without it right now. Now, if you also recall, in the verses and the choruses, they're doubling the kick sound with a floor tom playing the same rhythm. So we placed the same amount of mics, like 4 microphones, in order to record this floor tom, the same thing they did. We didn't know what positions they used, so we kind of just guessed.
There is an M50, a Neumann M50 close mic'd. Clarion is the closest thing we have. There's also a Neumann M50 that is mic'd far away. We don't have another microphone that has that sonic profile, so we're using my favorite OC818. Love that mic. I just kind of had a suspicion that the RE20, given that it's a pretty good bass drum mic, could also work for this occasion, so we're using it as the top for the floor tom. They used a Royer 121 ribbon microphone. We're just experimenting with our own ribbon microphone.
But I ended up cutting the far condenser and the room mic because they were just getting a lot of room sound, obviously. The floor tom made the kick sound. It turned it into a regular kick into a more orchestral sort of warm, round sound. Again, check out the difference for yourself. Now we're gonna go really fast through the rest of this because it's basically what they did with different mic models. We used a combination of an OC818 and a C414 for stereo overheads. Then we used a Lauten Clarion as the center overhead. We then used 2 different Shure SM57s for snare top and bottom, and then one SCX1, or the Sex1 as I call it, for the room microphone. Here's a quick sample showing you how the drum sound gets made by adding each one of these microphones in sequence.
Michael,
What's up?
where can people find you?
Bedroom Stew or on Instagram at mhodge_music. That's MHOJ.
If you need a drummer for a project, email him. Trust me. Then we added 10 layers of claps and then a shaker and chain in the second chorus. That is the drum sound. Now, it's really important to note, and you're gonna hear me say this a lot coming up, that this drum sound was made entirely possible through parallel compression. If you do not implement parallel processing in your workflow, if you're trying to recreate this tone, you will not get this tone. Here's a clip so you can hear what I'm on about. So please watch Andrew Scheps' video if you haven't already and if you can afford to. And if you'd like a bigger, large format video where I go over these overarching techniques in a really cool high production way, I really think that would be cool. Just leave me a comment if you're interested, and if there is enough interested, we'll definitely do it. All we did for the bass is record DI, and then I split that into 2 different signals. I did one that was just the DI signal and then added EQ and compression. And the other one I used the Ableton amp simulator, the bass one, and made it really clean and really understated. I didn't want it to sound too insane. I tracked 3 different guitars, 3 different guitar models, each one using a different pickup configuration. And then I auditioned each one of these 3 guitars on an OC818 for the guitar tone and a Shure SM57 for the guitar tone. I ended up using the OC818 for the Sunburst Strat, and then my hollow body and the other Strat got the Shure SM57. Just a quick note here, have you noticed that I am auditioning a bunch of different tones along the way? 3 different instruments, all of them using different pickups, using one of 2 different microphone options. All the guitar takes have slightly different dialed in tones as well. I am setting myself to pick from a number of options right off the gate. You should do that too. What makes a sound professional isn't that, you know, someone can just plug in an amazing tone and they're just that good. It's that they went through iteration after iteration until they're happy with their end result. Sorry. That's the strings. It's really a pretty minor role in the song, so let's move on to the keys. I was so worried about the keys on this song, man. The original track has such beautiful recordings for everything, and obviously it's all analog. It's a real grand piano, it's a real Rhodes, it's a real organ. We didn't have any of that. So we have to record emulations. And we did that through 2 different routes. One, a Nord keyboard, and then we modified these preset tones kind of on the fly. Jordan Robertson did. He is our keyboardist. He is also a world-class touring musician. He absolutely nailed all the parts in the first take. Like, not even trying. So check him out and check out his new album if you'd like, because he is freakishly good. So along with the Nord presets, the second option that we did is record everything on my MIDI keyboard. That way I could audition a bunch of different emulations for keys if one of the Nord presets didn't work out. But the Nord presets, dude, they are insanely good, and I see why everyone uses a Nord, including Hozier Live. Listen to these in isolation and tell me that you don't think they sound like the real thing. So honestly, ironically, the keys ended up being one of the easiest parts just because we had a crazy good keyboard player, and also the emulations on the Nord are just unbeatable. Okay, vocals. Oh, strap in for this one. This was insanely hard. Turns out Hozier can sing incredibly well. Who would have thought? He also recorded every part himself. That's all him. I thought that was a choir. I was prepared to like make a choir. Hozier sings all those parts, so that's what we did too. So all that to say, please, good God, go check out our singer's new song. He on purpose put it out to coincide with the release of this video. And he recorded 60 vocal layers for this track. Ethan absolutely deserves your view because he nailed this track. So go listen to his music in the description. The goal was to use a relatively high-end dynamic microphone. That way we're not picking up a lot of room reflections given that we're doing a lot of belting in this song. Well, poor Ethan, because I decided to scrap all of our lead vocals that use the RE20. We kept it for all the vocal layers, the 60 vocal layers that make up the choir. The amount of room noise that we would have amassed by using a condenser microphone in this space with 50 layers stacked on top of each other would have been too much. So the choice to use the RE20 in that occasion was definitely warranted, and we kept the RE20 there. But for the lead vocal, I couldn't get the RE20 to sound quite as big and as deep and as warm as I needed to, and it didn't take to the EQ as well. Check out the layers to this choir, treated and untreated, because it's insane. Now, although we're not really going to get into the mixing process too much, I really want to note a few things that are paramount whenever you go to recreate this sort of sound yourself. Whether you're recreating this track or you're just trying to learn how to mix, you need to internalize these things. Number one, this track doesn't work unless you take advantage of extensive parallel processing. If you're unfamiliar with that, just look up parallel compression tutorials on the internet. Everything from the drums the vocals, every harmonic instrument, everything. It's being sent to some parallel compression setup. Often these setups are independent of one another. Parallel compression sent for drums, one for keys, and definitely one for vocals. Then they're combined into a stereo mix at the end. But even further, that stereo mix has a parallel stereo mix that it's blended into to make it into the master. Parallel compression everywhere. Number 2, you need to leave headroom for the outro. Most of the track is fairly quiet besides the outro, so if you don't consider the fact that at the very end of your track there is a insanely loud section, you might be tempted to make the verse and the chorus pretty loud, almost all the way up to the loudest volume you're gonna go. So if you do that, when you get to the outro, it's just gonna be overcompressed and distorted. It's gonna hurt your ears. So again, the key to making this song cohesive and glued together when the first part is so different from the last part is parallel compression again. And don't forget that all of the stems are available to download in the description, but just a fair warning, this is by far the hardest mixing challenge of any of the videos we've done so far. So good luck.
So I want to tell you guys a story about why this specific forensic breakdown matters to me a lot. And just a content warning, I guess. I'm going to talk about some pretty deep stuff here. Hozier is like my hero, one of them at least. My entire acoustic style is based on how he plays. I had like one of the worst weekends of my life recently. One of my friends passed away, and I had to go to his funeral. The Friday before that weekend was the day that Hozier's new album debuted, and I was listening to it nonstop to get through it. It helped me get through a really rough time. Anyways, I head home. I get off the airport at JFK. I walk maybe 50 feet. I'm listening to the album. I'm listening to a song called First Time. And I run into him. I run into Hozier. He was so nice. Every piece of media that you guys might have seen of him in interviews, that's what he's like. We talked about music for a little bit, and he asked me where I'm coming from, and I told him I was coming from a funeral. He said, sorry to hear about your friend. Oh, okay. Never cried in a video before. I don't think there was a more appropriate person for me to meet in that moment. I tried my best to explain that this was surreal, but I think I just acted like a fan, which I am, of course. I got to show him the YouTube channel, and I told him that I was going to make this video, that this was going to be the next one. And of course, he didn't know what that meant. He was like, okay. I went from the most depressed, sad human to, motivated, and it really picked me up off the ground. Anyways, all that to say that, Andrew, if by some earthly way you see this, I just want you to know that you helped me a lot that day. So thank you for that. And I hope it's a good cover.
I still watch you when you're grooving, as if through water from the bottom of a pool. You're moving without moving. When you move, I move.
You are a cold emotion. There all of you a verb in perfect view, like Jonah on the ocean.
When you move, I move. When you move, I'm put to mind of all that I wanna be. When you move, I can never define all that you are to me. So move me, baby, shake like the bough of a willow tree.
You do it naturally. Move me, baby.
You are the right of movement. It's reasoning made lucid and cool. I know it's no improvement. When you move, I move. You're less ballooning, leaping. or Fred Astaire in sequence. Honey, your atlas and it's sleeping. And when you move, I move. When you move, I can recall something that's gone from me. When you move, honey, I'm putting on something so flawed and free. So move me, baby, shake like the bough of a willow tree. You do it naturally. Move me, baby. So move me, baby, like you've nothing left to prove, but nothing.
Thanks for sticking around. Like, comment, subscribe, all the things that help me if you can. Yeah, I'm gonna go to bed because I know for a fact editing me is probably very sleep deprived. Bye-bye.